the Carolina Hurricanes head up to the Motor City and come away with a 2-1 win against the Detroit Red Wings. And while it's on the mentor trip, and they say the best kind of power to have is that dad power.
You're Locked On Hurricanes, your daily podcast on the Carolina Hurricanes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to a Wednesday edition of Locked On Hurricanes, your team every day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you to the Everydayer for making this your first listen of the day. 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, talking everything about your Carolina Hurricanes. I'm your host, Zach Martin. I'm the credentialed Carolina Hurricanes beat writer over at the Hockey Writers. Also do some AHL coverage over at the Calder Times, and recently started doing baseball coverage at Covering the Corner on SB Nation. I'm also the co-host of the Surgecast, which is a weekly Carolina Hurricanes podcast, along with all my duties here at Locked On Hurricanes. Got a wonderful winning Wednesday edition of the pod as we get to recap the Hurricanes' 2-1 win over the Red Wings, as it was the dads/mentors trip for the Hurricanes. We also get to hear from Rod Brind'Amour post-game, get his thoughts on the team's 2-1 victory. And, segment 3, we are going to continue our trade deadline content series. As we talked about Morgan Geekie in the Tuesday episode, well, for the Wednesday one, why don't we check out and see if Ryan Donato might be the one on the short list for the Carolina Hurricanes. So, Hurricanes go on the road. They beat Calgary on Sunday. They're looking to kind of build on a winning streak. Very winnable games. They beat Calgary. You go on the road for the one gamer to play the Red Wings. Very, hopefully, an easy win game for you. And then you got Boston on Thursday. So you're trying to build momentum as the trade deadline's on Friday. Well, the Hurricanes were able to go up on the road, and they did secure the 2-1 victory. Now, it was the power of the Jordans in this one, as Jordan Martin scored in the first period, his 11th of the season, with a minute and 1 second left. And then the captain, Jordan Staal, scoring his 12th of the season, just 1:29 into the second period. So basically, very book ending of the Hurricanes scoring very late in the first period and then very early in the second period. Of course, it's the Jordans. And Jordan Martinook even gets an assist on that one for his 18th assist on the season. So make that 29 on the year for Jordan Martinook. Shane Gostisbehere does get his 27th assist as well. Overall, really great game from the Hurricanes, start to finish, 60 minutes of hockey. Even the fact that, Soderblom did score for the Red Wings, the Hurricanes pretty much put in a 60-minute effort from start to finish. Tied in shots 10-10 in the first period, outshot the Wings 13-8 in the second, and they tied 7-7 in the third. But the Hurricanes overall outshot Detroit 30-25, beat them in the faceoff dot pretty much all night, 60.4% to 39.6%. Now, you could definitely tell where it was going to be the tale of how are the special teams going to be. And I said, the Hurricanes going to go into this game that, they have to find a way to shut down the second best power play unit in the NHL, and they pretty much did. The PK for the Hurricanes went 2 for 2, just absolutely shutting down the Red Wings' second best power play unit. Unfortunately, the Red Wings also had the worst penalty kill unit in the NHL, and the Hurricanes, went 0 for 2 there. But so the Hurricanes killed all three of the Red Wings' power plays. The Hurricanes had 2 power plays themselves, but weren't able to score any on their chances. So while the second best PK unit shut down the second best power play unit, for a perfect 3 for 3, the worst penalty kill unit in the AHL did unfortunately beat the Hurricanes. So that's kind of just how that kind of worked out in the end. But hey, you know what? Special teams didn't really, the factor of that you won the special teams battle, you shut them down, which is great. Unfortunately, you didn't get the opportunities that you had presented to you against the worst PK in the league, but did outscore them. You'll take that any day of the week. And like I said, you needed 60 minutes from start to finish, start early, and that's basically what they did. Like I said, you got goals from the Jordans. You love to see it. How about from the fact, too, Frederick Anderson, outside of the Soderblom goal where he kind of, made Anderson go one way and hit him short side, Freddie played a great game. 24 of saves out of 25 attempts for a 960 save percentage. You'll gladly take that if you're the Carolina Hurricanes. And the fact that he comes in, had a couple games where he kind of struggled for the most part, but was pretty much doubted from the rip. And the fact that the team played great defense in front of him too. There were some few lapses there, but Freddie was found a way to stand tall, like I said, shut down the Red Wings and get a 960 save percentage. Yeah, would you love the shutout? Of course, but hey, you know what? You gotta give credit to Soderblom for finding a way to just making Freddie slide over enough to where he was able to put it short side, top shelf, and kind of cut the lead in half. But the Hurricanes were able to hold on, got a little closer comfort just because of the fact that the Red Wings did have an empty net for the while, and the Hurricanes couldn't capitalize on the empty net. But hey, you held on. You won the game, got your 36th win of the season. Now you're up to 76 points. You're kind of giving yourself a little bit of a gap if you can. I know the New Jersey Devils lost to the Dallas Stars with like 3.4 seconds left in the third period. So now you gave yourself a 4-point lead, and you still have a game in hand, which is nice as well. So the Blue Jackets did lose 6-2 to the Tampa Bay Lightning, so it gets them a little bit of a breather on them. Unfortunately, the Rangers now have a second wild card spot, but you are still giving yourself the opportunities to stay farther ahead. So now, being able to win, seeing the Devils lose, see Columbus lose, the Rangers are still slowly trying to build themselves back in, but they're in a battle for a wild card. But if you're Carolina, hey, you're feeling good about yourself. So you got that win. That's 2 wins in a row. You're looking to go for 3 on Thursday against Boston before the trade deadline. You're back home. And then you just build on that momentum. And that's kind of what you need right now. You need to start racking up the wins. You need to start giving yourself a distance. That way you don't have a Columbus biting at your heels for the third Metro spot. And now you're putting yourself ahead of the Devils, which gives you a better opportunity to now be the second Metro team to get the home ice advantage, at least for the first round. Of course, it all depends what happens after that with, most likely the Washington Capitals taking the Metro. It is what it is. But there's still enough time left for the Hurricanes to catch up to them. But at worst, you get second. You get the home ice for the first round. That's all you really need. And games like this, got a really close one against Calgary, had another close one against Detroit. And, Detroit's not a slouch of a team. They were in a wild card spot. Now they've kind of fallen out of it, but they're still pretty much right in there. It's just these are the type of gutsy, grindy games where you just have to go out there and play 60 minutes of great hockey and, just find a way to win. They did it against Calgary, a team that's, fighting for a wild card spot themselves. So is Detroit. So you got two teams who are kind of in the thick of a battle right now. So you're getting these playoff type games right now at the right time where you're kind of battle tested. You're finding a way to punch through these really close games that you're probably going to face in the playoffs, first round if it's New Jersey, or if Columbus catches the Devils, and maybe you're playing Columbus in the first round, but you're giving yourself an opportunity to see, okay, this is the type of hockey we need to play game in, game out, 60 minutes for the rest of the regular season, because you're, right around 20 games left. And then you go into the playoffs, and you're going to have to do that. You're going to have to do that 16 times. You have to go out there and win those games. So this is where you're getting the right type of games going and the right type of wins where, you're not going to win 4-2 or 5-3 or stuff like that, where you're putting in 4, 5, 6 goals a game in the playoffs. You might be looking at a 2-1, 3-2, maybe a 3-1, depending if it's an empty net, but you're finding a way to understand these are the type of games that you need for the playoffs. You need these playoff type wins, and you're getting it at the right time by the deadline. Now you're seeing, okay, you start racking these up. Now it's like, all right, let's get ready and let's go get some talent and stuff like that. And it's great to hear that the coach loved how the game was played, even despite the goal that the Hurricanes gave up. They still put in a 60-minute effort from start to finish. And this is what fans are asking for. We're asking for 60-minute games every single night. You don't have to score 3 or 4 or 5 goals a night. Just go out there, play 60 minutes of Hurricanes hockey. If you score 2 and you still win, great. Then you held the other team to less than that. That's all we really ask for. So, Rod Brendamore was happy about it, because after, the game, he loved the effort from start to finish. And you know what? Stick around, as we will hear from Rod Brendamore post-game and give my thoughts on what he thought of the game as well. So we'll do that here in a second on a Wednesday edition of Locked On Hurricanes. When the game tips off, the NBA action is just getting started, and there's no better place to get on it than FanDuel. America's #1 sportsbook. With FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game, so even if you miss the opening tip-off or want to bet on a fourth quarter comeback, you can stay in the action. And if you're looking for a bigger payout, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Welcome back to segment 2 of Locked on Hurricanes, your team every day. And like I said, at the end of segment 1, Rod Brandamore gave some really high praise to the guys after their 2-1 win against the Detroit Red Wings. So without further ado, let's jump into that right now with Rod Brandamore.
Well, Rob, we spoke after the second period. You said don't change anything at that point. Happy with how the group was playing. Yeah. Period by period breakdown. What was your analysis tonight?
Yeah, I loved it. I thought all 3 periods, there was no letdown. Just kept at it. We should have had way more goals. I mean, Alex over down there played really well. And I like that even though they got that one, and we just kind of kept going and didn't give up a heck of a lot. So it's a really good effort, right top to bottom.
Back-to-back wins, are there any key components that you've seen in both that you feel is starting to grow?
Well, yeah, we're playing really well away from the puck, I think, and limiting the chances against and playing a lot of zone time. We just it'd be nice to finish some of these chances, but hopefully that'll come. But like I said, top to bottom, I thought it was pretty solid.
The dad and mentors here on this trip, which we've talked about. How special has it been to have them along for this ride?
It's always great, just to see number one, to see the dads and how proud they are of their kids, as they should be, and then see the kids, I call them, our guys, just really appreciate them being around. I think it's it's unique. It doesn't happen very often, it's a neat thing that the league does now, and it's kind of a tradition, but it's certainly, you're stacking memories with this stuff, and that's what life's about.
Big thank you to Rod Brandamore of the Carolina Hurricanes, per usual. And yeah, you heard from him. He loved it. It was a great effort. You got 60 minutes of Hurricanes hockey. Yeah, you could have had more goals, but you got to give props to Alex Lyon. That's why he helped the Florida Panthers 2 seasons ago make the Stanley Cup playoffs, because he, finds a way to get the saves that they need to keep teams in games. And, that's why the Detroit Red Wings kept him around. So it's just, got to give him some credit. But, hey, you got the 2 goals. You were able to shut them down. Jacob Slavin, got to give props to Jacob Slavin for the game he had. A lot of great, pokes with the stick. Basically held Alex DeBrincat down to nothing, held Patrick Kane down. He just found a way to basically just nullify all the guys that, makes Detroit who they are as a team. Lucas Raymond, Dylan Larkin, and all that. So just, and, the team had so many opportunities. It's just unfortunate puck couldn't go in because you had a goalie who was playing really well, but you were able to get the 2 that you needed to get the win. And like I said, that's all fans are asking for, is just 60 minutes of Canes hockey, and that's what you got. Yeah, while Elmer Soderblom did score, they still held in. They didn't fold. They kept pushing, and they were pushing for a third. Didn't really get it, even with an empty net, but they still found a way to give you enough where you're like, yes, this is all we're asking for. We want to see this every single night. You have a first period where you score a goal. You don't let them. You score a goal in the second period. Now you're going to the third up 2-0. And yeah, you might give up 1, but you're still going to have an opportunity to close it out and get the win. And that's what you did. So that's where I think this is where it's a confidence boost. This is where it's a, even like with your dads there too, like that is gotta be a massive bump for those guys. The fact that they were able to go on the dad trip, win it for them. And, now you're, like I said, now you're building momentum on top of momentum of, it's 2 wins in a row. Yeah. You had a tough one against Edmonton, but you go beat Calgary. Now you go beat Detroit. Now you got Boston on Thursday, the day before the trade deadline. There's a lot of stuff going around, but like what's going to happen at the deadline, is the team going to add anyone else? Are they going to stay put? And, and we all know they're not really done yet, but at least it gives you the opportunity. Okay, you got, right around 20 games left. Points are very much at a premium right now for the Canes, where they got it. Like I said, they got to fight to get that second spot in the Metro, so they have home ice advantage because they're unreal at home. We all know they are. And, now you go on the road, you get your 13th road win. You're still 13, 15, and 3, but you're slowly kind of building on top of that. And, maybe that's a great boost to have as well, because now you go back home, but you got that road win that you need. You did it on the dad's trip. Now and there's always that, momentum doesn't really carry to each game, but there's a confidence that builds. There's that confidence that might go to the next game. So you might see that confidence now slowly building into this team where, maybe it has been a little rocky since November. Maybe, January was a little bit of a better month. February wasn't great. So they're trying to get into March and put themselves in a better position. But now you can kind of see that confidence building to where, okay, this is the right time. Maybe the Hurricanes will get on a hot run. Maybe, I don't know if they're going to win 8 games in a row. It would be great if they did. But, if you win 4, lose 1, win 3, lose 1, win 5, lose 1, stuff like that, where you're kind of building the wins. You're not going win, loss, win, loss, win. You're not doing that on off type thing. But if you build it to where maybe you get 3 and then lose, but then 4, you're finding a way to string these wins together rather than just having them all over the place. And that's kind of where games like these last 2 games, this is where it's like, this is a building block to, okay, you had a hot start to the season, you're 14-4. You kind of stumbled in November. December, you went 6-6, but you had a great January where you won 10 of 15. February, you kind of want to forget about it. You did only have 2 wins, but it is what it is. And then, you come into March, you lose the first one to Edmonton, but you beat Calgary. Now you beat, Detroit. Now you got Boston. You're trying to find the way to right the ship at the right time to where you're not limping into the playoffs, or, if you got injuries, or you as a team, you've gone stone cold, but you kind of limp your way in. You have to find a way to go through a marathon of a season, kind of find a way to, okay, when do you want to get hot at the right time? Obviously, you want to be on it for pretty much a majority of the year, so you can kind of start accumulating the points, getting as much as you can, staying consistent, knowing your game and stuff like that, not kind of be more back and forth. But if there's a time to find a stride, find what you need to kind of build onto that as you get closer to the playoffs, March is pretty much the good time to do it, because you got the game. You have like 14 or so games in March. Then you got maybe a handful in April, like the first couple of weeks of April. You might get 7, you might have 8, just depending on how the schedule works out. But if there's a way where you have the last full month of games to go through, March is definitely that, where this is where you want to get hot at the right time, because you might have a handful of games left, but you're talking half of April, then it's playoff time. In the last full month of the season, March is where you kind of want to hit that stride. So maybe this is the Hurricanes might have struggled, might have had a good month, a bad month, and a good month, but now this is where this is that time to get really rolling. So you love to hear from Rod. Like I said, the fact that he saw the effort, he gave him 60 minutes. Yeah, they scored, but you were still in it. You played your game. You stayed 5-on-5, and that's what you really went needed the most. And they accomplished what they needed. They got the win. Now let's see if they builds off and takes that confidence to Thursday against Boston, and then see where you're at for the rest of March and go from there post deadline as we get that much closer towards the playoffs. So definitely be interesting how all of that plays out. Now, speaking of deadline on Friday, we are still going to be doing part of the trade deadline series type stuff. So I know we talked a lot about the Kings being the Red Wings. Did hear from Rod Brandamore, but segment 3, kind of just still building off of what could be maybe a short list, guys to kind of look at to see, would the Hurricanes maybe acquire this guy if he's in addition to the roster? So stick around as we'll continue the trade deadline series here on a Wednesday edition of Locked On Hurricanes. Welcome to a segment 3 of Locked On Hurricanes, your team every day. So like I said, at the end of segment 2, we're going to start continuing our trade deadline series. Is what certain guys could the Hurricanes be looking at as possible additions to the team. Now, I know for Tuesday's episode, we talked about former Hurricane Morgan Geekie, how he could be an addition to the Hurricanes because he's already been with the team. He's been a fit before. Unfortunately, they lost him to the expansion draft to Seattle. I think he'd be a great addition, but there's other guys you could look at too if maybe that's not the right move to make, or maybe Boston doesn't want to give him up. Who is another guy the Hurricanes could go get that's maybe affordable to their cap and might fill some needs? Well, for me, this is Ryan Donato of the Chicago Blackhawks. Now, what I like about Ryan Donato is the fact that 20 years old, he's not the right shot center that, the Hurricanes need from Morgan Geekie, but he's a left shot center. He's in the last year of his 2-year deal. He's only making $2 million, so it's basically Geekie's money. But here's the kicker, though. He's got 45 points in 59 games. And the thing with Ryan Donato, too, is he has 3 goals and 5 assists in the last 5 games. That's just dating back to the most recent game against the LA Kings on the 3rd, where he had 2 points. And then against Anaheim back on the 1st, he had 3 points, 2 goals, and assists. So over the last 5, Ryan Donato has been absolutely on fire for the Blackhawks. Like I said, 3 goals, 8 assists. Just good night for how great he's playing. And this season, career highs across the board for him. Career highs in goals, already at 22, 23 assists, and he's done it in 59 games. Like his career high in goals was 16 back in 21-22 was with Seattle. And then, last season with the Blackhawks, he had 18 assists. He's already beaten that. So within a span of just a lot shorter games, he's already across the board better. Yes, he's a -7, which isn't great, but it's the Chicago Blackhawks. But overall, though, what more can you really ask of a guy like Ryan Donato on a Blackhawks team that's kind of struggling right now, but still being able to put up the points that he is with those goals. He's got 3 power play goals. 2 of them are game winners, which is great to see. His shooting percentage, 16.5. Really can't go wrong with that overall. And that's his career high in terms of if you're looking at, guys that have played 60 more games in a season. And then time on ice, he's averaging 15 minutes and 26 seconds, which is also a career high. Last year, he played 1360 for the Hawks, and then was 11 minutes, 13 minutes, 12 minutes. So him playing just 15-26 is still better than what it is now. Face-off-wise, 44.1%. It's 2% lower than Geekie's, but still kind of around in that same range of the, mid 40-ish range. He does have 10 blocks, but 94 hits. Donato, another guy who's not afraid to throw the body. He doesn't have a lot of blocks, but he's a 200-foot two-way type of player. He's got 0.76 points per game. The Hurricanes would gladly love to have that for a guy who's averaging almost 13 minutes of even strength time. Not bad at all for the 28-year-old center. And like I said, he's going to be UFA at the end of the season at 29. So it's not like Morgan Geekie where he's going to be a restricted free agent. With Donato, he is going to be unrestricted. That means, or the Hurricane, it's a little bit more of an interesting aspect of if the Hurricanes trade for him, what money could we be looking like? Could we be looking at 3, 4, maybe $4.5 million? I could see $4.5 million for Ryan Donato, especially when you're coming off a career year when you only made $2 million for the Hawks. I could see a $2.5 million bump in pay AAV wise, especially for a guy that is 28 compared to Geekie, who's 26. Donato would not be a bad option for the Hurricanes because right now the Blackhawks depth wise has him as a third line center. As of right now, even the Hurricanes don't have lines, but you can still give him top 9-ish minutes and throw Donato on a power play because he already plays on the power play for the Blackhawks right now. So if you bring him in, you could easily slot him into the second power play unit for the Hurricanes if you really wanted to. And he's a top 9 minute guy. Because if we're not going by lines, we're going by what minute range could we be looking at. Top 9 minutes would be perfectly fine. Donato. He's already doing 15 minutes now as his career high. The Hurricanes could easily give him 15 to 16 minutes a game, especially if you have him on a power play. Maybe you put him on a penalty kill. Who really knows? But, for the fact that you're looking at 22 goals and you're looking at 45 assists, that's not bad at all. Like I said, he's got a shooting percentage of 16.5, so the guy's got the touch. The Hurricanes saw this personally when they played him in Chicago. This guy has no problem scoring goals. And like I said, that's on a struggling bottom of the league Blackhawks team. Imagine him on the Hurricanes if he's got like a Taylor Hall, who he's played. Taylor Hall was his teammate, so Taylor Hall knows perfectly well who Ryan Donato is. So if you bring in Donato, that's not a bad move at all because then you're reuniting 2 guys from Chicago that have chemistry together. And let's say you put them on the line with a Jackson Blake, or if you put them, with a situation where maybe it's him and Eric Robinson, or however you want to play that out. There's definitely a way you can add Ryan Donato in a sense. Now, what could a trade look like? Well, it all really depends because right now the Blackhawks are in a state of rebuilding because they just got rid of Seth Jones. They did bring in Spencer Knight in a first-round pick, which is it really isn't bad, especially for the fact that Spencer Knight just had a 41 save, only give up 1 goal against the Kings in his debut. Like, have a night for him, literally and figuratively. But it's just, are the Blackhawks willing to give up Donato? And I think they could, if depending on what the kind of deal it is. It's just what contract could the Hurricanes really move that could fit in with the LTI, with the cap space? Because right now, even with LTIR and when it comes to cap space, right now the Hurricanes, all said and done, are kind of in the minus $51,000 range in terms of LTIR status, in with the cap coming up. So, will there be money that has to get moved? Probably so. And like, what certain range could you be looking at to where what could fit in a $2 million, for a Ryan Donato? Could there be a third team that could take on 25% or maybe take half and just take $1 million off the Bucks and the Hurricanes get them for $1 million and just go from there? Or is there a contract with the Hurricanes that could maybe work? I don't know if it's do you trade away the rights of Jesper Fast and get just get his number off the books, or do you go and maybe see if they take a Tyson Jost at $775 and maybe throw in some other type of money that could fit in somewhere else, like I said? Or is there retention somewhere, even if it's at 25% for a third team, where maybe like, all right, here's a 5th rounder for whatever just to take on this extra $1 million? Or like I said, it's just, or do the Blackhawks just eat half of it and be like, okay, we'll eat half. Here's $1 million. Give us someone that's at 775, and we'll make something work in some form or fashion. So I think there is a path to a trade that could work for the Hurricanes, to where you could get a Ryan Donato, or you're maybe not giving up so much, where maybe there is a deal that's a contract that's around the 775 or the $900 something range, where maybe you could make this work. Is it a prospect? Maybe. Who really knows? It just depends on what Chicago's looking for. I mean, if they're looking for younger and draft capital, I could see maybe you trade a Tyson Jost, or maybe you go and trade a Suzuki in a pick, or trade someone else that, we have all these, depth, we've got all these logjam of defensemen that's not Morrow or Keisha or those guys. I mean, there's a prospect you can go and be like, here you go, and here's a draft pick or something like that. There is multiple different ways, because that Earl Schwartz and Tulsky and those guys, they're going to figure out how to get the money right. It's just, I think if you're looking at someone like Ryan Donato, who's 28, having a career year, you could get him for his $2 million cap hit. You just got to figure out the configurations of how you make that work for cap compliance. But he is a UFA, but you can find a way to extend him if you're willing to keep him, because off a career year like that, maybe you want to see if you can build that onto next year as well, because that's not a bad option. Like, you want an upgrade, especially if you're looking at maybe a bottom, a 4th line guy. Nothing against Tyson Jost, but if you bring in someone like Ryan Donato and his 45 points, that's a massive boost to the center core. That's Aho, Stahl, Cockney. I mean, now you add Donato, just like Morgan Geekie. That's not a bad center depth right there. And you're adding a guy that you can slot in anywhere in your top 9-minute status and on the power play. So either way, if you go Geekie or Donato, you're not going wrong in that aspect. But if you're on YouTube, drop in the comments below, how would you feel if the Hurricanes did get Ryan Donato? What could be a potential trade that makes sense to bring his $2 million cap in, where you're not having to give up so much to get him? But be interested to see how that works out. But hey, I would not be upset if Ryan Donato is picked up by the Hurricanes. Like I said, you got Taylor Hall already. There's definitely a way where you can make his $2 million cap hit work for this team. So guys, that will be a Wednesday edition of Locked On Hurricanes. Thank you for making your first listen of the day. For your next listen, why don't you check out Locked On NHL Podcast, bringing you the daily league-wide stories that matter with the local coverage you love from Locked On. Find Locked On NHL on YouTube or if you listen to podcasts. If you want to keep up with me, I'm at OneShootZach on X. The podcast is LO_Hurricanes. I'm also on Blue Sky at the Zachary Martin. I have link trees in both of my bios where you check out all my articles at the Hockey Writers or thehockeywriters.com. You can check out my AHL stuff at thecaldertimes.com, and also my baseball content at coveringthecorner.com. If you also want to check out my other podcasts, well, it's the Searchcast on all podcast platforms and on YouTube. For this show, well, it's Locked On Hurricanes on Spotify, Google, Apple, iHeartRadio. Follow, subscribe, leave a 5-star rating and review, because I might just read it on the show. For YouTube, well, it's Locked On Hurricanes. Subscribe, hit the bell notifications so you don't miss a show. Hit the thumbs up if you let me know if you like the episode as well. Share with all other Caniacs to become everydayers just like you. But I hope everyone enjoyed this Wednesday edition of Locked On Hurricanes. Enjoy your Wednesday, and until next time, as always, let's go Canes.